Hello! In my previous video I showed you my entire ink collection, so now I should actually get and use those inks. I have absolutely no idea what I'm doing today, I have no plans, I'm just going to make it up as I go along and see if I can come up with some interesting artworks. So let's get into it! I had to dig around in my paper collection and I found some regular Yupo paper. I don't even think I've used this one yet. This one's been sitting in my stash for a while. This is that synthetic plasticky kind of paper. I also have some black synthetic paper. I have not used this. I completely forgot I had it. I do vaguely remember buying it thinking it looked interesting, but I just never got around to using it, so I'm definitely going to have to try some inks on here. This one should be interesting. I'll probably cut these up a bit so that I can have smaller sheets, and also because this paper's not exactly cheap, so I think smaller artworks would be fun to begin with, and then I can make more of them rather than one big one. So I firstly cut up a sheet of the white Yupo into 4 strips and started chucking on some alcohol inks. These are the Ranger inks that I have here, and I was thinking of a beach scene, but I'm not too sure how successful it is. I just really threw on the inks and whatever happened, happened. I find that they are incredibly difficult to control, so I pretty much always end up with something I didn't expect to get, which is not a bad thing. And just so you know, that washi tape did absolutely nothing. All of the ink went underneath it, you could probably see that, so it was a complete waste of time. I used a camera blower here because it's much safer than blowing through a straw. You don't really want to be inhaling all of those alcoholic fumes, and I can attest that these inks really smell strong, so do work in a ventilated area as well. In my second picture here, I'm using my Pinata inks, which are much older, and a few of them had dried to a crust, as you could see, and I managed to get it all over my artwork. I was so furious with myself. I should have cleaned that nib off first, and look, it just did it again. Oh dear, this was a bit of a mess. I just let it keep going because there's no way I was going to be able to clean that off without totally smearing the whole thing. And I fixed it up a bit later, as you'll see. These ones have dried out, so I will peel off the tape and see what kind of mess I have underneath. Both of them have leaked. I guess alcohol ink does not like washi tape very much. Never mind, let's peel it off and see what we get. Oh yeah, that's a terrible mess. Oh well. Well, there's no saving either of those, so what I did was pull out a fine-tipped Posca pen in black, and I just coloured around the edges to make a black border. That's about all I could do. I figured that if I tried to use a white paint pen, it would just end up mixing with the colours and not look as good, whereas black just covers everything and it's perfect. The only problem is that Posca pen paint does dry really matte, so you'll see a noticeable difference between the shiny alcohol ink and the matte border around it. But I can always paint over it with an acrylic gloss, I guess, although I didn't do it in this video because I just did not want to wreck the artworks before I'd actually made them all. So I've just left matte borders, and I was finding it quite easy to colour around them because the alcohol ink had actually left a bit of a raised line along the edges of where the tape was, so I just coloured right up to the edge and used that as my guide, and it worked spectacularly well. I did not make a huge wobbly mess of those lines, as I was expecting to. They're definitely looking better with those black borders, but this one, you could see all of those bits of crumbly alcohol ink are stuck on there, and if I pick them off it's going to leave white spots. So what I thought I might do is get some of this Speedball Gold that is running out. It's a calligraphy ink, and I might just dot a little bit over the marks and make it kind of a part of the painting. going to show you all of my finished artworks at the end of this video, so stick around. Next up, I'm going to try some of my Art Spectrum pigmented inks, and my first attempt, I just dripped them on and used a spray bottle of water to spread them. This was a big mistake. You are going to see what happens a bit later when this dried. It was a total disaster. At the moment it looks amazing. I was having so much fun with this one, just seeing the three colours mixed together. I was trying very hard not to turn it into mud though, because it's very easy to do that when you have all three of the primary colours. It was working okay at the moment though. You could see some of it's gone a little bit green, and then of course it got out of hand here because I had a lot of ink on that page and also a lot of water. I thought I had it under control, but unfortunately it did not last like that for very long. Well, this one didn't come out at all, really. What a mess. I think my mistake was actually spraying water on and it just totally lost control. It's also made all these little areas where I think the pigments have just clumped up together from the three colours, and now I've just got all these yucky black spots on it. Yeah, the pattern's kind of interesting. I like this area here, and it made quite a good rainbow, but this side's a bit gawpy, and I don't know why there's just that white spot there. Maybe there was something on there that was repelling the water, but it's very strange indeed. So I might actually give this a second try. Attempt number 2 went a bit more smoothly, just using a paintbrush to spread it on rather than adding extra water. The washi tape worked a bit better with the pigmented inks, and they didn't all run underneath like the alcohol inks did, but I still did not really get a nice smooth line, so in the end I just painted all of them with the Posca ink around the borders. The ink is definitely staying a lot more stationary in this though, without the spray water, but even then you could see how easily that ink runs once it touches other ink, and I don't know, maybe the board is not exactly fully level because the ink was just all running down to the left hand side, so something was off kilter. And despite my best efforts not putting too much ink on, it just kept building up, and I did have to soak a lot of it off with a tissue because it kept pooling at the edges of the paper, and even in the final dried version you'll see that some of it does have that dark edging, but I just left it because it doesn't really matter too much. But I think I'm reaching the conclusion that alcohol inks do work far more satisfyingly on Yupo paper than pigmented inks do. I ended up only using the Art Spectrum ones. I didn't use the Bombay India inks at all in this, so I might have to do another video later on, but this is what I got for now. Once again, it's done that thing where the pigmentation has bunched up and so you get these little spots all over it. I think that the alcohol inks work better than pigmented ink for sure. You could probably use the dye-based ink as well. I didn't try that in this lot, but next time I will have to do that. So now I'm going to try that black paper, and this stuff is weird because it's very matte on one side but it's also smooth, and the other side it's quite rough. I don't know if you could see that there's a texture on there. So I think I want to use the smooth side. It just feels really strange. It doesn't feel the same as the white Yupo paper, so I have no idea how this is going to behave. It's already picking up little marks and things because it's so matte. It's just picking up dusty bits everywhere. So that's probably not going to help, but I think I'll do the same sort of thing. I'm going to tape it down because it just stops the ink from running all over the sides, and I'm probably going to go back to the alcohol inks, but I think I might try some of the opaque ones and some of the sparkling ones, and I'll see what I can get. Well, the first one started out as a total fail because I tried that angelic sparkling ink and it just goes on like milk. It's really awful. So I ended up throwing on a bunch of the silver ink by Jaquard Pinata, and that was a lot better. That covered up all of that yucky milky gloss on there. It just looks horrible. I don't like that one at all. I might just have to give that one away, I think. So I noticed straight away that the alcohol inks are so much glossier than that matte background. I don't really like it, to be quite honest with you. I like the black, but it isn't actually that black. by comparison to something that's nice and glossy black, but I just kept throwing ink on, and I added in some pink and teal colour, and that looked amazing on top of the silver. I'm really glad I did that because the silver on its own was really kind of boring. I should have put more ink on this one, but I kind of left some spaces and I just let it run where it may. I do quite like the design. I think I would need to paint this over with gloss at a later time though. On to my second one. The gold by Pinata is really stunning. It is such a beautiful, sparkly, shiny colour. Look at it, it's amazing. Of all of the metallics I've ever used, this one has got to be up there as one of my favourites. And I threw on some of the butterscotch and some, I think it's cappuccino iridescent ink, and look at that colour. It goes kind of a bluey teal colour. It was really pretty. This is my absolute favourite of all of the ones I did, and I just had so much fun with this. I kept pouring the ink on, so this one had a lot of it and it took ages to dry. Normally alcohol ink dries pretty quickly, but I had to leave these overnight really because they were so tacky for a long time. I find with these sorts of things that the more you add, the better they get. So in this case, more is more, not less is more. And I just kept dotting on that gold ink over the top of everything and using my blower to disperse it a bit. The gold has a much heavier mica pigment in it, so you do need to blow it around a bit so that it won't all just sink to the bottom. And then I thought I would add in my third one regular colours and then white on top, just to make this more opaque look to them, and this actually came out pretty well. Once again, I used a lot of ink on here, and I decided to go for blues and indigos in this one. Annoyingly, the camera decided to focus on my hands and not on the paper, so it is a little bit blurry, and I of course didn't notice this until editing. I was going, uh-oh, no saving that now because I can't redo it. Hopefully in the future I will have more than one camera filming, but for now we just have to live with this. I added some black on there as well just to get some really deep colour into it, and you can see how glossy it is. It's so rich. And then I just added a bit more white on top. Once again, that white is quite a heavy opaque pigment, so it does sink down to the bottom, and it did require a few extra layers to get it to stand out a little bit. But there really is no science here. The art is to just keep dropping it on. And my last one, I did the same sort of technique. Instead, I went with some magentas and purples at the top. I was thinking of a flower garden, so I don't know how successful it was because once again, that ink just is so uncontrollable. And while I might have ideas in my head, they do not necessarily translate onto the paper. I added in a bit of sparkle as well. Now down the bottom I added in a dark green, which you can't see until I added that white, and how pretty is that? It's like magic watching it. I was really enjoying myself at this time, just watching those colours come to life. It was interesting working on the black. It's not my favourite. I think I prefer the white overall, but you do get some really different sorts of effects on the black that you can't on the white. And so this was a pure experimentation. And in between the green and the pinks, I added in a bit of blue just so that the pink wouldn't mix with the green and turn to a hideous brown. But I was also thinking it could be the sky in between the leaves and the flowers. Interpret it as you will. It's not really meant to be anything in particular. That's what I like about abstract. I try not to actually make it look like something. It just ends up being what it is. And here we go, peeling it all off. The black paper was a bit better with the washi tape, but you could still see areas where it sunk through. It's not so noticeable though. Oh, I love this one. It's so sparkly and pretty. Definitely my favourite. And then these ones were really still quite wet, but I'd just had enough for the day, so I peeled off the tape and just let it dry overnight without touching it too much. Same with this one. That is a pretty thick layer of ink. So I usually give them about 12 to 24 hours to dry properly before I touch them again. So here's everything I got. Some are definitely better than others, but looking at them all together, they kind of feel quite cohesive and I do like them. I think they would look quite nice if I stuck them all on one board and just made this as one artwork. Here's the ones on the black, and in this one I actually used the black Posca pen to go around the outline, and you can see how much blacker that is compared to the paper. This is my favourite one of all of them. I just love that gold, and also the shimmer as well. I think those two went really well together, and this is definitely the best one that I did, in my opinion. And then these ones here, they got a bit dark. I think the white ink sank to the bottom while it was drying in this one, so it's pretty dark, and maybe I'll add something over the top of this. I like the bluer one better, I think, because you can still see the white ink in those areas. And then here I have the two that I did on the white paper. These are with the alcohol inks. I like both of these. I think the colours are really vibrant, and I do like the contrast of that butterscotch yellow with the teal colour. I can't remember, is that a turquoise? Whatever colour that is, I really do quite like this one. It feels very beachy to me. And then when Nick was looking, he said that looks like a lava cave or something like that, so I think that's pretty cool too. The pigmented inks didn't work quite as well, mainly because they did split up and leave all of these darker marks, which I'm not a huge fan of, but the second one I did was more successful when I didn't add water. When it had water, it just turns into this greenish murk. So that's all I have today. I'm going to leave it at that. I'm quite happy with how some of these turned out. Definitely that one and this one are the winners for me, although I quite like this one as well. I don't hate any of them, but this one is a bit of a fail. And I think I could have added more onto the background of this unless I paint it with gloss and make that look a lot darker than what it is. So let me know what you think. Do you have a favourite in here? And is there anything I could do to make these better? Thank you so much for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and click that subscribe button. And I will see you all again really soon in my next video. Have a fantastic day. Swatch you later. Bye.